Okay, well, I'm Ashley. I mean, most of you already know me, and I have Your Life by Design and Unlock Your Design. I've been studying Gene Keys and human design for almost 3 years now, um, and teaching it for a year and a half. So I love it, and I have gone deep in all of this stuff for myself, and it's just changed my life since I found it. I've always had the question, who am I? Who am I? Especially after having 3 kids. My kids are the ones that woke me up, and I felt like I didn't know who I was. So the victim was strong in me. Like, my life was stolen from me. I got married when I was 18 and had all these kids, and now I feel like I don't even know who I am. So I kind of had this like crisis, and then tried to find myself, and then I have Gene Key 44 in my Pluto, so it creates transformation for me. So it's always people coming into my path and showing me stuff or teaching me stuff. And so I had someone show me Gene Keys and human design, and I felt like I already knew it and I could read it, and it's just been really easy grasping and understanding it. And it's been super helpful in liberating me into my own freedom. And I've definitely found a ton of ways to transform my own shadows and move out of the victim, because we don't half the time we don't even know we're in victim because we're taught that that's what we need to be in, and we have a lot of people around us who are in victim, so we may not always have a good role model. So that's me. Bella, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So as you, Ash and Bella, and I had this chance, I would say, to discover the Gene Keys and human design at the same time. And I feel for me that was the biggest blessing because I got these two systems, like the more masculine human design and the more feminine open and like heart opening Gene Keys. And that made me like, it didn't become a religion because it had two systems. And also some people in human design are against the Gene Keys, and so it really made me kind of find my way. And that has been my life. I have the channel 2838 in my profile. That's my conscious channel, like my personality. So I'm here to kind of struggle and find my purpose and feel honor in what I'm doing. And that's the more I get to share about the Gene Keys, the more these systems are part of my life, and I also get to share them, the more I feel kind of honored to actually get this transmission coming through me. And I wouldn't say I kind of was born into a family of seekers. My mom has multiple sclerosis, so she had been a seeker, and I saw so many things as a kid, like shamanism, gestalt therapy, everything you could imagine, like herbs. She was a vegan, an organic vegan at that time when that word didn't even exist. So I feel like from having that initiation, I've taken the parts and like kind of threaded my own path. So that's where I'm at now. And I would say that like the Gene Keys in human design is a mental system, and I'm all about embodiment. So that's why also like yoga and tantra has been part of why I feel it's all about walking in truth. And sometimes we need to take out the stress and the pain we have in the physical body and the emotional body as well. And it's not only like an understanding. So that's what I work with. And, that's where I feel like we three also work well together, because it's not about understanding, it's about living and becoming and being. So yeah, that's it, I think.
Melinda, did you want to introduce yourself and let us know?
Sure. My name's Melinda Butterfield, and I have a master coaching certificate. It's a general one. I love talking about helping people with their businesses and their personal life, but my passion is definitely spirituality and helping people find their purpose. My vocation is 28, which is a shadow of purposelessness. So since I have my purpose, that is the gift that I can give to other people. And my story started in 3rd grade when I was walking myself to church. And I stopped on the sidewalk and I wondered, why am I doing this? This isn't my religion. Nature was my religion. And I heard a voice in my head that said, you need to learn this because it's a lot of people's religion and you need to be able to, matriculate. Probably didn't use that word with a 3rd grader. And I still didn't move my little sneakers down the sidewalk. So then I heard the voice say, you need to be around people. Because even back then, that line 6 does like to isolate. And then I didn't move. And then my higher self said, besides, they have cookies. And that got me going down the sidewalk. And I remember skipping. I mean, I felt like I had wings. I was floating, and I stopped again. And I was just feeling, this rush of spirit inside of me. It was so beautiful. So then things weren't always like that. And life takes its toll, a little trial and error. But I knew even in the darkest night of my soul, the struggles, with an abusive husband and a situation that was not bringing me joy or purpose, that I knew that if I got through it, I could help others. And I don't know if I could have done it for myself, actually. But knowing that other people were, needing me and counting on me to give me the drive to overcome a lot of my victimization. And so I've done a lot of my own self-healing through gratitude and mindfulness, but I actually really could feel the blocks. It was amazing. And I knew that I'm like, what is this? This is not my stuff. I feel that this is something else. And then I discovered Gene Keys. And I already knew. I heard about it, and I was like, oh, this is it. I could already feel it. I could already feel it. I got up at 5 a.m. I'm not a morning person. And 3 weeks, 5 hours a day, I was just soaking it up. It was so amazing. So I like to think of Gene Keys as my life's work. And then my programming partner is human design, because that's where I get a little bit more like, what's going on here? What are you saying? That feels like a box a little bit, but is it true? Does it need a little bit of a distinction, perhaps? Maybe I'm not understanding really what is meant. And then through this process, I say, you know what, for my unique design, this doesn't feel true for me. And then other times, like, yes, after experimenting, yes, absolutely. And even though I might not like it, creates a lot of allowance. And so then my purpose sphere would be I Ching. So I'm really starting to dive into that because it feels like a balm to my soul. So that's going to be my sacred practice. And I love talking about sacred self-care support, because I feel like, with my line 2 in our bodies, if we can get out of our heads, oh my gosh, and get back into our bellies and hearts, that's where if we can walk with these teachings and not always study them so deeply and practice them and contemplate them in our lives, that's where I find the most peace and actually get the most movement. When I first started, everybody said, relax, relax. And I said, okay, my brain hurts. I could feel the brain cells, like the synapses, firing and forming new pathways. And I'm like, I need a break. They told me to relax. So I listened to my elders, and that is when it sped up.
That's awesome.
That's all I'm going to say about that. Walk with it.
That's all you're like Forrest Gump. That's all I'm going to say about that.
That's all I'm going to say about it. Walk with it.
Yeah, and I feel like it's really important for as a 6-2 as well, because it is a journey. It's not a race, it's a journey. And so often I feel like we feel, especially I know that you can relate with having purposelessness in the shadow. It's like, I need to figure out what my purpose is before I die. I need to figure out what that purpose is before I die. And it puts a lot of pressure and a lot of strain and a lot on us to figure it out. So we're trying to do things quick. We're rushing through stuff, and it's not always good. I mean, we learn a lot of lessons through them, but through our rushings and through us trying to figure it out and make it happen as fast as we can. There's a lot of growth in the like stair steps in the journey, because as a 6, anybody who's a 6, anywhere a 6 in the profile, it is about having patience and about knowing things will come like step by step, and you're going to be embodying all the different lines. So like the first line, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, you know, and then you're gonna start becoming wise about all the different phases that you've been in, but you're not a victim of the phases. And so in this masterclass, we're going to talk about liberating yourself into freedom, because it's our victim states that are what keep us from actually coming into our purpose and coming into that altruistic purpose where we're given from an open heart, and we're giving our wisdom and our advice from a place of enoughness and from a place of healing. Like, we don't need anything. We're not doing anything to receive. We're doing it because it's what we love to do, and we have this drive to help others and share it with others, instead of, I need to do this to figure out who I am. I need to do this to make me feel worthy. I need to do this for whatever the reason is. In order for us to come into the superhero within us, we have to walk that archetypical, that hero's journey. We have to go on the hero's journey, because we got to find out that we're the heroes ourselves. Because I feel like a lot of people feel like they are waiting for that white horse to come and save them. I can't do it on my own. I need that white horse to save me. But it just takes somebody reigniting that light within you. It's not that they saved you, it's that they turned you back inward and something sparked in you. Because anyone that saves you is doing you a disservice, because you don't know and haven't embodied how to save yourself. So you're just going to keep getting yourself in situations that require saving, and you're not going to know that you can save yourself, right?
That's beautiful, Ashley. Well put.
Yes. I'd love to share. I mean, as Melinda was talking, because she's heavy in the 6th line, and so are you, Michelle. I wanted to pull up the hero's journey, because I feel like we all need to be familiar with it. Mm-hmm. So the hero's journey, this is, everybody can see this, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So this is a little graphic that I found on Google, like right now. So this is the hero's journey. I feel like a lot of us go through this because we have this awakening. And so it's this call to adventure, right? It's whatever question that lights you up and says, I need to go on this journey. I'm saying yes to whatever this is, right? It's that door that opens and you're like, yes. So call to adventure, meeting a mentor, right? So it's that person that's not here to save you. They're here to teach you, to train you. And the mentor doesn't have to be a person. It could be a system. It could be education. It could be your experiences. It doesn't necessarily have to be a person, right? So then we have, this is the normal world and the line that divides the normal world from the unknown. And that's the biggest thing, is we all have to foster the courage to step into the unknown. Because if you guys have ever seen like the map of consciousness in Power versus Force, if I can find it, it shows, it shows that between the destructive nature and the creative nature, what divides it is courage. Courage will pull you into neutrality and then get you into joy, peace, all this stuff. But you have to have the courage to pull yourself out of the victim, to pull yourself into the unknown. And so it's this crossing of the threshold where you feel you're on the cusp of something, but you're so scared.
Yeah. Because
you don't believe you're the superhero. You don't believe you're the hero. Everybody, like, we're the heroes of our own story. We're the heroes of our own life. And a lot of us don't feel that way. We feel like victims. We feel like side characters, people who are behind the scenes, right? But we all have to embrace that we are the hero. And that means you are the superhero. But you have to kind of accept that and come into those gifts. And so understanding what your gifts are, understanding what your Achilles heel is, understanding your weaknesses, so that you know how to support yourself in like overcoming those weaknesses. Or even, how can I, like you have a weakness, but you know how to support it so that you don't fall over every time that weakness or victim shows up. You know the support, you know what you can use and call in.
And speaking of support, I find that right when I'm on that threshold, because I take it to the threshold all the time, you know, because I want to evolve. And it's right when I step out and leap of faith, and I'm like, okay, come on, you can do it. And right when I step out, it's like my foot comes out, and spirit and more support just come right underneath and lift me up. It's magical. But I was like, where were you when I but it always comes.
It's faith. It's faith.
It is.
It's trusting, because just like in the story of Jesus, and who did he have walk on water? I can't remember which one. But anyways, if he didn't look and keep his eyes on Jesus, he went in the water. So he had to trust that with Jesus he could walk on water. You have to trust that as you're walking, the path is forming, and you're not going to fall into the abyss. You're going to, the steps will be illuminated, but you have to have trust and faith. That's the biggest thing. And for me, in my spiritual journey, when I had the door open to me, I had no idea this was even real or possible, like spiritual gifts and all these superpowers. I didn't think they were real. I mean, I wished they were. And then finally I had somebody come and be like, hey, I can read your aura, and I'm a clairvoyant, and she just unloaded all of this stuff on me, and I was like, oh my God, my life has totally changed. And I went home, and because I had this belief that we're like Jesus, we can do anything he can do, and if Jesus can do everything, and I was raised Catholic, and I'm more spiritual than I am religious, but I understand why Jesus is such a big archetype for me is because he taught me that I am Jesus. You are Jesus. People put him on a pedestal above us, and that's creating this victim mentality that I need to hand my life over to him because he's more powerful than me. You have the capability to be Jesus, and you have that archetype within you, and all you have to do is call it, embody it, and you can have everything he had. And so with any of the gifts, as long as you believe it's a possibility for you, you can open it up for you. Like I went home and I was like, I can read auras. And I practiced, and then I could. And then I started to do it on people, and they're like, oh, that's so accurate what this means. And I was like, yeah, so it's so easy. You just have to believe. Believing and having faith is the biggest thing in this journey.
What I've been doing this last week is saying to myself, why don't you just pretend like you have arrived, that you're already there? Because a lot of times I think, oh, I'm not doing it, back to that purpose thing. Oh, I can't do this, or I can't do that. And then I go take a class or whatever, and they say, you're already doing it. So I'm trying to be a little more open-minded to say, let's look for evidence in our lives. And as we look for that evidence, guess what? We're drawing with law of attraction and using our focus, it comes to us.
Mm-hmm. Bella, did you have anything that you wanted to add, or did you have any experience where you felt like you were crossing some kind of threshold into the unknown? And here, let me unmute you. You got to unmute you.
So yeah, I was thinking about the differentiation of the charts so that, the hero's journey looks very different for all of us. And in my chart, I have the 28th, and I have the 11th, for example. And those are like very kind of Scorpio, I have them in Scorpio as well, so like shamanic death kind of experiences. So in my case, it has been like that. I felt like I had to speak with demons. I had to feel like I was stuck to the floor for a long period of time, and I didn't know if I was ever going to come up from to the normal world again. And I just kind of want to point out that it looks very different for all of us, and we can, with the human design chart and the gene keys, we can start to unravel like our own hero's journey and get tips kind of how to walk it. And in my case, I just had to accept. For me, it is that, like, it takes that much courage, and it goes that deep. And for me, it was really scary, and it's still really scary. And I don't know when I'm going to be, asked to go there again. But I do know that I never go back to the same point. And that's kind of what I want to say with this illustration. Like it goes round, but it goes around in a spiral. So we start like here, and it's a small spiral, and then it spirals up. So that we have more awareness. We have a possibility for higher frequency, and also to include more and include more and include more. So that's the hero's journey for me. It's really like a spiral, like expanding, widening upwards. And I feel like, courage is the word. There is no other way. And that's what you're mentioning, Ashley. It's like that's the main, key or quality that we need on this journey.
Yes, I love that. And I wanted to, a lot of people, especially people who are familiar with literature, they understand the hero's journey. So I love that you connected it to the Gene Keys, because that is your visual for like your personal hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing that we have this tool, and that we're able to utilize it to get into our gifts and our atonement. Like this talks about, there's that death and rebirth, right? You have that revelation, and then the atonement, and then whatever this gift is, and then you come back and you're changed. But then you go on it again, because like she said, it's a spiral. And we're not going to go into spiral dynamics, but in spiral dynamics, it is like that. And there's levels and phases. And whenever you shift, you actually, whatever level say that you are a blue, the next color would be green, right? Or red. So you're a blue right now, and you're at the top of the blue phase, and you're like about to have this catalyzing change and get this gift or whatever it is you're supposed to learn from this. And then when you get it and you shift, you come back to the bottom again. But it's not the bottom, it's the bottom of whatever this next journey or phase you're in, and you have to go through the spiral again. So it's awesome. I love it. So let's pull up. I just wanted to pull up the.
While you pull that up, I think it's important to talk about that when we do get on our shadow. Just because we're evolving doesn't mean we don't fall off sometimes. But the resilience is the key. We're quicker to get back on. It's faster. We have more tools. We have a better mindset. We watch ourselves more. So we see it coming and we fall into it sometimes still. And then we go, okay, let's rally, because I got to hold it together for everybody around me. I got to hold sacred space. And that means it starts within me. I got to ground myself, so as within, so without.
Yes. I love that you talked about resiliency, because I feel like kids learn resiliency early on, right? So they're really resilient, and life just keeps cracking away at that glass, and finally I don't know. Anyways, it's important for us to foster our own sense of resiliency, because especially coming from you, Melinda, and you were talking about the third line, I feel like the third lines have to be the most resilient because of how much they fail.
Yes.
Right? Because you get, and as if you're a sixth line, you have a third line too. Remember, you go through all the lines, and we'll talk about the different lines. I feel like it's important to mention that, because I don't know how much knowledge you have with the lines. We'll give you, I will give you a PDF that shows the overall summary of the lines and what it means. But as a third line, the wound is of shame. And the shame comes about, right, because there's so many things you're thrown into, because you are in trial and error mode. And we have to foster this sense of resiliency, because if you're the first person coming into this thing and doing this thing, like, I'll go first, you might fail. And if you do fail, you have to learn to laugh at yourself. And that's the only way to overcome that fear of shame, being a victim of shame, being a victim of your failure, is for you to learn to laugh at yourself and learn to be like, this is just a game. And you got to find ways to create resiliency in yourself, like she said. Yeah.
Bella does a great interpretation with the house and everything. Bella, I loved when you do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know Michelle's profile. Is what
I'll pull it up. Let me pull it up. here's Michelle's two profiles. So she has the human design and the gene key chart. So she's a 6'2".
Yay.
Her SQ is a third line too. So like as we're talking about like shame and overcoming that, like you're a third line, so you're gonna have a lot of experiences understanding impatience and understanding what it means to be patient. And guess what? That's beautiful that you have it in your SQ. It's what opens your heart, because you're a 6 line, 6'2". You're gonna have to go through the journey, and you're gonna have to understand what patience means, right? So Bella, what were you gonna say about the visualization of the house? Or
Yeah, so that's why maybe not go through all the lines. That's why I asked for the profile, because I see the lines as personalities in the house, like I call, you know, the I Ching house, and it has been explained like that in China for like many years. So the sixth line, if we start, because that's the personality, would be the person up on the roof. And that's the person who actually is on the roof but already overlooking to the other house. So it's kind of somebody who's in this world but already has a vision over what's coming. And you can also like another word for it is intent. So it's like somebody who has an intent because it's not yet manifested in this world. And it's also, you could say in the shadow, it's a person who can feel a bit aloof or disincarnate, because it's in the mental realm. The fifth and the sixth line are the mental realm. So it's easy for this person to go up and be objective and kind of being the objective judge, instead of coming back down to the house or down to the world. And that's what we see many times. The robustness that we were speaking about is that the trial and error for the sixth line to the Saturn return, the first 28 years, is trial and error. But since the sixth line is not that robust as the third line, what happens is like we feel a bit like a kitten in a tumble dryer. And, you know, I have a sixth line in my soul, and you know, you have it too, Melinda. Like we feel a bit like a kitten that's like all messed up. And then we're like, you know, this world is like too much for me. And we go up on the roof, and then the risk is that our little paws, you know, we never want to dip them down into the world again. So that's the six lines shadow, you could say, that you know, not even feeling that we're really belonging to the world, and staying in that mental realm and being really objective, maybe even being wise, but we bypass our own life. And for you, you know, Michelle, you have the 55 and the 59. It's like all about freedom and intimacy and like the juiciness of life. So a sixth line in these two gene keys is like you bypass your own genius and your own life if you stay on the roof. And then the beautiful thing as well is like that your soul is the second line, and the second line is in the first floor of the house, inside the window. We call it, in human design, they call it a hermit, because it's somebody who has innate talents. You're born with talents, and often, so the first line and the second line, that's the physical body. So you're born with talents that you don't really know where they come from. We used to call this the dancer. So people walk by the house and they're like, wow, you know, they look in and they see you be doing something that they were like, how did you learn that? They might knock on the door, but you choose your partners because you're second line and you want to have relationships that are nurturing your soul. So you're not going to open the door for anybody. You're just like, but one day somebody walks by and maybe they're not even knocking, and then your souls know, this is my dance partner. This is whom I'm going to have that experience with. And as a second line, you also have a second line vocation and core wound. So you have that shadow, you know, kind of the denial with the other. So you need the other to mirror yourself. And that's like a combined theme for your soul and your vocation, that your soul needs the relationship, the mirroring with something alive. It could be an animal, like I see you're having dogs in the background, but like something for your soul to dance with. That's so important for the second line. And it also kind of helps, you know, I love the second line. I had somebody tell me the other day, there are only like 3 profiles, the 5-1, the 6-2, and the 4-6. And that's what we are in this group. That's the only profiles that kind of can come to a serenity in life. And you have that second line that is inviting the person on the roof to dance and to like be in life, to be in flow. It is also the flow of the spine, like the fluidity in everything. And you have the versatility in your purpose. So it's a beautiful, that's kind of how I would look at the personalities of your personality and your soul, and kind of see what roles they are playing and how they interact with each other.
I love that. That was cool, huh, Michelle?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the purpose of really using these, remember, these are tools to help us understand what our Nate's, who is the superhero archetype that we have within us. And the reason that we go into the lines and we go into the different shadows is because, first of all, we want to know, again, who's our superhero? What is the Achilles heel that it has? So what are the different shadows we have? What are these core woundings? Like, what wounded us from the get-go? And what are our gifts? Like, what can we come into that we're able to share this genius or this superpower with the world? And so I feel like mindfulness is a huge thing. Like, in the beginning, we don't feel like we're superheroes, but then we start going through this hero's journey, right? All these lines. So the way that Gene Keys works is it takes you through this journey, right? You are going through the activation sequence and you are uncovering your beautiful gifts. These are the things that make up 70% of your personality. And you're going to use these to then come into your genius and share them with the world. But guess what? You can't just go from, I know what my gifts are, let me share them with the world. You have to go through the Venus sequence of opening your heart. And that's why in the hero's journey, it's so important to have this like soul crushing experience that then turns into this heart opening experience. Because if you allow that, the shadows and the victim and the demons and the things you're battling to win, right? You become the victim and you never get liberated. But even if you quote unquote lose, you have to find a way to have that perspective that you cannot be defeated, you cannot die, you are eternal, and that this life is just a game. So when you're able to have a different perspective on all of this, your heart begins to open and open and open. And when your heart is completely open, that's when you come into that altruistic way of being, where you're serving from a sense of wholeness, from a sense of empowerment, and you're giving without needing to receive. You come into that unconditional nature. So it's important to work through these different areas to open your heart more and more and more. And then you get deeper into the gifts and you understand more, because we're here to have relationships. We're not here to live life alone. And I know a lot of six lines, like you guys were talking about, they can tend to be aloof and they can tend to be like, I don't want to come back into this world. It was too crazy, too hard for me. I like being on the roof, and I like nobody, like everybody's leaving me alone. Just everybody leave me alone. But there's a call to action on your life. You are here to be visionaries, to be these wise teachers. And how can you do that without that audience, without the people coming into your life? Now, that doesn't mean you have to be on stage. Like, you could be like writing books or whatever it is. You have to find a way to share. And because you have that second line, like Bella was saying, it's going to dance out of you. And it's going to be so easy, right? And you're going to have these gifts and these talents, because the 16th gene key is kind of like, you get to master anything that you want. It's just, you have to have that love for it. You have to, it has to light you up, and you'll know, oh my, like what I said about gene keys, I was like, I know it, I understand it. And then it just flows through me because it lights me up and it excites me. It's almost like you have a direct connection to that thing, and it just floods into you. Just like Mozart and Beethoven, like some of them entered into this morphogenic field where they just downloaded off of it, and it was just supernatural to them, right? And their gifts were supernatural. So you have to find out, what are your supernatural gifts, and what do you do that is amazing, right? And it's not about comparison or competition. It's about what's unique to you and what lights you up, because the whole point is to have a beautiful, happy, lovely life for yourself through your own perspective, not from what somebody else says it should be, right? So,
It's a beautiful chart. Beautiful.
And she has, we have the Knight, determination and invincibility a couple times here. So we know that whatever you're working towards and whatever you unlock, we know that you will be invincible. Like, one of your superpowers is nobody can stop you. If you put your mind to it, and you have the right efforts towards the right thing, that aligns with your soul, you become unstoppable. But like Bella was saying, you have to find the right partner to dance with. And that could be a person, that could be a teaching, that could be a practice, like whatever it is that you are dancing with.
So the 9 is a victim of details, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for sacred self-care, I would make sure to pay attention to your teeth, because that's considered like a small detail of our body. That's from Louise Hayes from the 70s, Heal Your Body. And then the 9 is a sacral plexus, amino acid threonine. And you can take a look at that and see what foods, some of the amino acids are in our foods and other times they're not. So to support yourself with that. And then you could do, I love to do color therapy. I love to do, for the chakras, I love to do Tibetan chimes. So I tend to want to run them, like when I'm on my computer, I want to run something behind that to kind of balance out all the technology and and maybe just like when I'm doing chores, get that, whatever speaks to you, that resonates with me. But find some, what music is gonna help you. I try to hit it on a lot of different levels to make it fun and easy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So again, one of the things that we said to focus on when you're trying to liberate your superhero and you are wanting to shift from victim to freedom, and remember the 55th gene key, which you have in your life's work. Let me double check. Where does Dana have it in? I think it's in her vocation. So those are big places.
They are really, really big. You guys are perfect. You guys came, right? Oh, it's so perfect.
I love that you guys came and you're the real life example, because it's beautiful, the placement and what you're experiencing, and you're both 6 lines. So guess what? Anything we talk about, any of the lines, it relates to you because you go through all the lines. And hers is in her vocation sphere, so very important to understand. So both you and Dana will have to get very familiar and attuned to the different victim patterns. And so the numbers relate to the gene key or human design gate, and this is what victim shows up in the shadow frequency. So like she was talking about 9, victim of details, is down here. 55, victim of drama, right? That's the drama that's gonna then make your victim like, this is so exciting. How can I be a victim in this situation? Right? So it's just like, it just feeds off of that drama, because it's almost like it makes life exciting too, but in a negative way. So it's all about getting into the frequency that you call in the higher frequency, the higher vibration experiences, so that instead of drama, it's like, what's going to make me feel more liberated and empowered and free? Because a 6 line needs to feel that to be able to go get off the roof and share.
That patterning of drama is actually a condition, and so you can rewire your brain. I've done it. If we're used to just being on a high level of anxiety because we're in a toxic environment, you can become addicted to that patterning itself and can't get out of it. But gratitude is magical. It really is. So practicing mindfulness, and I'm even rethinking that word because we want to get out of our mind. Mm-hmm. So maybe gutfulness, heartfulness. Heartful. Yeah.
If we pull up the chart again, I felt like there's something popping out, and I see that Dana also has part of that, like a couple of things, and it's not to put any victim patterns on anybody, but kind of looking at what could be the risks. So maybe actually with the other chart, like here you can see that we have a second line EQ and a second line attraction. But with other chart or something that popped up, it popped out.
Well, no, I needed to share my whole screen instead of just what we're looking at right here.
Right.
This
So
one,
yeah, I wanted to kind of, thread, because there's something where I feel like, since your emotion, oh yeah, you can see when I'm pointing actually. Well, when you see your emotional center, it's open, and the open emotional center, usually when it's like that, we don't like drama. We kind of want to avoid drama and conflict. So instead of being a queen of drama, it can be to avoid conflict and to walk on eggshells with people, and to not be able to live out the beautiful side of freedom of the 55, because actually you're avoiding to make people upset, for example, or you're always balancing out, over adapting to situations. So what I would kind of go back to when I see a chart like this, I would say, okay, this is a person that we know has a lot of sixth line, and there is this aloofness and this like mental brilliance and objectivity. But at the same time, if you look, you have like a double theme. If you look at your own body graph, you can see there is a split. So you have the sacral center that is together with the root and the G center. There are channels that connect these centers. And then when you look at the top, you have the ajna and the throat that are by themselves. So we could say that you have a double theme kind of being, where you could risk of functioning from the mental plane when you're you can see here on your inner authority, you're sacral. You're supposed to, like Melinda said, to be in your gut. You're supposed to feel from there. And that's the same thing with Dana. She has the same exact, she's sacral. She has open emotional, also open ego. Open ego is kind of people that we feel like we need to do things to be worthy. We don't maybe feel like we have an inherent worthiness or value if we don't prove that we are, nice, good. We overpromise many times, and then that also takes away from our freedom. So that's kind of a double theme. And when I look at I don't so much usually go into the Venus sequence, because that's, like Ashley said, it's a self-discovery journey. But what pops out at me here is your double 25. So there is this, what can you say? You have a tendency, I would say, to go into constriction when you are triggered, like emotionally, especially like when there's something you learned. So it's easier for you to kind of contract instead of being in the body, and probably go up to, either to spirit or to the mental realm and trying to be objective. And it's really asked for me, because this is a triangle of embodiment where the marker is now the 25, 25, and the 5, the SQ, the EQ, and the IQ. It's really that's really where you, what I was saying in the beginning, peel off the pain and the stress in the physical body and the emotional body. So to bring in that acceptance of, even the acceptance of it is, like I was saying, in my case, I've been having to have a lot of courage to be in my sacral. I have exactly the same as you guys in this case. I am sacral, I have open ego, open emotional. It takes courage to be in the body. I'm also a lot of six lines. But that is what's unlocks it. And then when we can accept the discomfort of being in the body, that is when the universal love comes and grabs us. And you have it both in your EQ and your IQ. And that's a very important thing. And then the other thing, like, take a breath, I speak very fast. The other thing I want to point out is that both of you have the EQ as a second line, and you also have the vocation as a second line. And these are people, and this is kind of a tendency and something to watch out for. When I speak to people that are on their spiritual journey with a second line in their vocation, they used to be like, no, like, it sounds when I speak to them like they already overcame the core wound. But sometimes when you have both, because both the EQ and the vocation is kind of a lot about the emotional wound that we are purifying now. That's why we're speaking about the emotional center, all the gates in the 55 and the other center. So the second line can tend to be like, it's not my problem. Because it's like when you don't want to look it in the mirror, you deny that there is a problem. So on the hero's journey, like every time we go around in the spiral, to like be a little bit more curious about, maybe there is something more I haven't seen yet. And maybe I should listen, not to anybody that would tell you that, you know, that there's something wrong with you. But when you have a person, a dance partner that loves you and that cares about you, you know, to be aware that there might be things that they say that you're not able to see in yourself. And that's something for both of you with the second lines, because Dana has it in the attraction and in the EQ, and you have it in the vocation in the EQ. It's really something to watch out for, and also something that makes you want to find the right dance partners, the people that can, with love, so that you don't constrict in your 25, the people that with love can mirror you and want to have you go deeper. And your vocation, it's again, the downside would be too much detail, too much precision, too much intellect. And you want to use the 62 for, no, it's 61. Okay, sorry, I thought it was the 62. You wanna open up because you're able to receive the great mystery. There's like nothing you're not able to receive and be a vessel for. But that in constriction, you cannot do that. So to peel off the stress and the pain in the physical and the emotional body, so that you come into acceptance, so love can flow. That's for you. Like that would be a key. If you are not on that path, like to be interested in how to do that, I would say could be part of your inquiry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Dana has she has a 6-line core wound, and it's important for all of us to know what wounding did we come into this world with. And it's not, and it is stuff that we may or may not be able to relate to our childhood, right? Or it may be something that's inherited and we can't really place a finger, especially the 5th line. But with the 6th line that Dana has, hers is the core wound of separation or isolation. And she has in her IQ and her EQ, the 2nd, which is dislocation, orientation, and unity. And this is, I believe, a very feminine one, to tap into the feminine essence of it. Because she has her IQ in the 6th line too, if she feels triggered, she's going to then leave and become that 6th line aloofness. So she is looking for that supportive partner to be able to help her open up into unity and orient herself with herself and the divine and the connectedness of everything. But because she's a 6th line here, right, and she has a 6th line in her IQ, she may have the pattern of separating, right? Separate. Let me pull away from this. And 6th line in your IQ, I mean, they're meant to transcend each level of this state of awareness, right? Because they're here to get towards that enlightenment state, but they do have the tendency to be aloof and to leave because they're wanting to go there and search and seek and figure it out. So for anybody that's watching that is not Dina or Michelle, it's important for you to look into your gifts, right? So your life's work, your evolution. So your life's work is how you can get into the flow. Like a superhero needs to know like what's their jam. How can they get into the flow? So as long as you're unlocking the gift state here, you're going to feel in the flow. You're going to feel like you can open up to life and that you can share stuff with it. When you are in your not self theme, you tend to come into that victimization. So the beautiful thing about the life's work sphere is that it's an indicator that tells you if you're on path or off track, or if you need to go inquire into your mind or your emotions, like something is triggered and something is off in you. And because you're a generator with a sacral authority, your not self theme is frustration. And so in knowing what your not self theme is, it's going to let you know when you're out of flow, you're out of alignment, you're kind of off track. And when you're feeling that frustration and that like tension in your sacral, you got to stop. And you have to be like self-reflective and have self-inquiry strategies where you can go inward and be like, is this in my mind? Is my emotions triggered? Is my core, like what is triggered in me? And how can I parent myself and self-care myself? Because you're not going to get anywhere being in the shadow and being in victimization. Right? You need to always learn how to liberate yourself into freedom. Where do I feel victimized? Where do I feel caged? You can ask yourself that question in particular, Michelle, because you have to know what kind of questions to ask you. Like, what triggers you to be in victimization? When do you feel like you're in victim? And what kind of illusion is being placed in front of you to make you feel that way? Because you may be feeling as if you're in a box, or that somebody's oppressing you, or that you're feeling that constriction, like someone who's got a vice on you and you're like, I can't breathe, I can't do anything. Or you're feeling like you need to hide yourself or go be away from life, right? You're gonna feel certain things in your body, and you're gonna want to be that Sherlock Holmes and figure that out so you can shift. So it's important for people to look into their life's work, look into your evolution. This is what grounds us, and it is also what provides wonderful challenges for us.
And that Sherlock Holmes piece has been so key for me. That's why I use several different systems, because I don't know what code is going to activate me. I don't know what code I start to feel into somebody's, personality and say, hey, have you looked here? Maybe spirit animals. I mean, Ashley had some awesome information on the spirit animals. That may be code for you. The crystals might be code. The I Ching, there's so much information on the Gene Keys website. If you explore and click around in there, it's like a maze. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. So in order to find out what is your support materials for each of these different phases of your hero's journey, right? Because we're going through the Gene Keys chart and we're looking at what does our hero's journey look like? What are we uncovering? The gifts are your gifts. Like, that's what you're going to come into. It's coming into those gift frequencies, and also living with ease and peace and flow and freedom. That's what we're unlocking, is freedom for ourselves, freedom to be.
Earlier when you talked about a game, I've been like, when I move, it's very stressful. So I play a little game in my mind that I'm playing a game, and what are my tasks that I need to do to level up, and what are going to be my prizes? Maybe it's self-expansion, or maybe I'm really connecting with people, and maybe it's a magic potion that I'm, extra superpower, and that's where you release the superpower. What is the gift is what the leveling up process is. So that little, mindset really helps me to fuel and have the passion that, hey, I am striving for something. There is a gift and a superpower that's waiting there for me. And then when I act as if it's already coming, what I feel into, what does that gift look, how would that represent in my life? If I was to act like this, what would I do? So like precision of words, slowing down and just activating and using precision of words. And it's not even in my chart, but we have all of these gifts and Gene Keys and gates in our charts. And you never know, and it happens to be a programming partner or in my codon ring, and it's vital when we're putting information out into the world and putting our essence out into the world to be precise about it.
What were you going to say, Bella?
Yeah, I think since, I kind of want to give, for many people that might watch this after, because we did speak about the similarities with Dana and Michelle, but there is also, as you were saying, Ashley, that 70% of who we are comes out in the activation sequence. And so when we look at Dana, she's a 1-3. So, we have such a different profile there. The one is in the house, is the one in the basement investigating. It's very creative. It kind of has these sparks, want to like find out and investigate and know more, and passions that like people might not really understand. Needs time by itself. It's about empowerment. It's about being so empowered so that you inspire others to be inspired, and inspire others to be empowered. But the one can also, in the evolution, kind of the downside can be like, being a bit like, okay, it's not worth it for me to be with you because I'm better off, like, I have more fun on my own, and can be that kind of sometimes a bit calculating, like, I prefer to not have you in my life because I'm better on my own. And the 1-3 is a bit like that, because the third line is the person in the house in the stairs. They go up the stairs and have experiences, but then might fall down. and it's like, it's the robust person that does that. So the body, or the soul in Dana's case, is asking her to walk the stairs. And then the 1-3 profile has that, if it's not empowering me, I'm not going to choose it. So it's kind of, and it's a very, very individual process. It's like, it's for me, my purpose in my life and my destiny and where I'm going, it needs to have meaning for me, because I'm here to be empowered and inspire others to play with energy, to play with experimentation, and be empowered. And that's a right cross. And then the left cross, the 6-2, it's more about, you know, seeing the transpersonal, seeing others, seeing how others actually, even if it's hard, are part of my evolution. So it's like really those, the left angle and the right angle and the left angle profile that are the collective and the individual, and see. And also for somebody like Dana, like other people that have a 1-3 profile that is who they are, but then they have a lot of 6 line inside. It's also, you know, to have these pieces where kind of what you first see of somebody has a deeper, there's something deeper on the inside and something more precise in certain spheres. So just kind of what somebody looks at on the outside is not the whole story, but it does kind of dictate a lot of our life, those 70% in the activation sequence. And that's why we're looking at those victim patterns and, you know, those shadows today, because they are gonna come up no matter what.
I have to tell you guys, I'm really careful about words, or I try to be, and I would want to, someday I'll take the time to flip all of these victim states. And so I was in the kitchen with my friend and I said, yeah, I don't want to even say I am a victim state of blah, blah, blah. And so what I did is I flipped it, and it took a while to get the wording right. But once I found the mantra, and she's a projector, so she's super sensitive to energy. And once I got the mantra down, I felt an embodiment in my body, and I whipped my head over. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was it. And the projector could feel the energy shift as well. So be careful what you're studying and how you study it and how you take it in.
Like Kundalini yoga and those kriyas, there's something very powerful about those kriyas and about those movements, because it unlocks something within your aura. It refines it, it purifies it. And so as we're going through the different spheres in the Gene Key activation sequence, that's what's helping you uncover your gifts. You also have to know how to foster these gifts and grow these gifts. And so that's why we wanted to make sure you guys felt empowered and not a victim of like, oh, there's so much out there, I don't know where to look, what can I do? We're going to, in the group, we're going to put in the unit section, you'll have different tools to be able to go into. So obviously each of the Gene Keys is associated with a different center in human design, so that's going to allow you to understand like what chakra is this associated with. And you can go and you can look up chakra meditations on YouTube really easily. We also have Gene Key affirmations. So if you're wanting to be very mindful about what you're saying, and I feel like it's important to change the way you talk to yourself and about yourself, and like really staying out of the lack mentality, the lack frequency, the lack language, staying out of the victim language. If you can look and pull into that and see like, okay, so we'll look at the 55 because that's what we're talking about. So 55 is, I need intense drama to feel alive. Freedom. Like a dragonfly, I rise above emotions. And for some people, it's your own emotions if you're defined emotional, and it's other people's emotions if you're an open emotional. And it's not that you need intense drama to feel alive. Remember, if, again, you have an open emotional, it's not that you're wanting the drama, you're really trying to avoid it. But in your avoidance, it's still coming to you because you're like, I don't want it. Let me push it under the rug. We're not going to deal with this. And then you have the freedom. I'm experiencing the collective orgasm. What? Doesn't everybody want to like experience that? What is that? How can we get to that? What does that feel like? Is that what unlocks? I don't know.
And it's going to ripple out through the collective. Awesome.
Right? Oh my God. I mean, I've experienced something like that with like the Kundalini awakening. I was in a campground in nature. I was with a bunch of really tight-knit people who I felt really safe around. And at the moment I like laid down in the tent, like I felt like, I think in the Gene Keys it talks about tenderness and the cosmic mother and the milk of kindness or something like that. And it was like this orgasm that just ran through my body for like hours. And I'm like, what is happening to me? never experience that again. I was like, I kind of want that again.
Dang it.
Dang it. Come back.
My story wasn't as orgasmic, but it was Gene Keys caused an ecstatic Kundalini awakening as well. But it was partially from exhaustion because I had to wear down my mental defenses so that information could come in, how to get out of my head.
The epiphanies that you can have in working with these frequencies, because they are frequencies, right? And because we're the creators of our reality, we get to choose which frequency we want to hang out in. Like, what do I want to experience? Because even if you're in the shadow of anything, you get to change your perspective, and it almost unlocks this new state of being, and you can feel it physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever it manifests as for you. You feel that shift, but you have to empower yourself and be like, this does not have power over me. I am empowered, and so therefore I choose differently. So we have these affirmations for each of the gene keys, and I found these over the time looking at, I don't know, let me see who did this. John Leonard. So he's the one that created this. And then we have the crystal alphabet for each of the hexagrams, which are the gene keys, right? Hexagrams, gates, gene keys, they're all the same thing. So you can go and look at, okay, so for 55, halite. Halite is the stone to help you connect to and empower yourself in the 55th gene key. So I would suggest, halite and jade together, right? Especially for you, Michelle, because you have the programming partner. So to have halite and jade, it allows you to kind of, we don't need crystals to save us, right? They're here to remind us of that power within us. So that frequency, we then feel it in ourselves, and we get to expand on that with any of these things. So that's for the crystals. And then we have the totems. So here are the different animal totems that we have for the different gene keys to help you. And you can, if you start attuning yourself to these different totems, you can channel the wisdom from them, or it's just for you to be mindful of when they show up in your life. And you're like, oh, 55th gene key's talking to me. Oh, I just saw an emu. 54th gene key's talking to me, or a lizard,
And for the 33, for mindfulness, the animal is a sloth. And I think it's so beautiful. So you just channel your inner sloth. It'll slow it down, sister.
Yeah, what can they teach you? Exactly. 55, we have the albatross, which I believe it's a bird. Some kind of bird. I think all of these are birds. I'm like, oh, yeah. It's a bird. It's in the bird category, Ashley. Then we have a seal and a dragonfly. Dragonflies are big. It's easy to see those, just like butterflies. So whenever they come across, I'm like, gene keys, 55th gene key, master key. I'm always looking at the dragonflies.
I also found out, or had a little download, that dragonflies are a little fractal of dragons, actually. And that's how they come into this realm. And when you have thunder, anytime you have thunder in your hexagram, thunder is actually lightning also, because when you have thunder, you have lightning, right? And that lightning is dragon energy. So, and it's about vitality, sexuality, the 59 dragons in our genome. So, and it's an awakening, really intense expansion, spiritual. It's beautiful. And as soon as I get more information, I will give it to you. But there is something that I did just come across, and I was waiting to tell Bella, because Bella and I both have the 59, that the story is for the I Ching, that the creature was a serpent or a dragon with a human face that gifted us with the I Ching. So there's just a little bit of fairy tale story for us to think about. But I think what I do know, Ashley in her attraction has thunder over thunder. And after a session with her, I felt like lightning bolts went in my body. I had to take a moment, and it was beautiful. I had to embody it. I said, I need to go outside and be in nature. That's a line 6, right? I sat in my hot tub and I said, what is this? And it was the lightning. She just, that shock, 51, bolted me with lightning. Wake up. It was really beautiful. So that's why I know that this is, I know in my body that this is true information, you know, coming through.
So the 55th gene key is the dragonfly's dream, and then the 59th gene key is the dragon in your genome. So, and the beautiful thing about the journey for the dragonfly is it starts in the water, right? As the little, I don't know what it's called before it goes into the dragonfly stage, but it doesn't even know life in the sky, in the air. And one day it just decides, I'm going to go and swim up to this leaf, and it becomes to have legs, and then it has wings because it's out in the air, and then it becomes a dragonfly. It doesn't even know life as other than what it is in the water until it goes into the unknown. What's up there? I don't know what's up there, right? So we all need to venture out like the dragonfly or the little tadpole person, whatever it's called. I forget the name of it, but we have to go and venture into that
Threshold.
The threshold, exactly.
Yes.
So and there's as a as a little tiny like tadpole or whatever it's called, newt, whatever the heck it's called, there's water there's tension.
Yes.
There's water tension, like there's pressure right here. So to be able to push through that too, we are going to have to push through our fears to get to the other side too. We have a lot of that tension pressure, and we have to have courage to push through that, to then go into that unknown space, because it'll push back on us and be like, oh, it doesn't want me to go. I can't go there. No, you have to have that drive, and that you gotta just push through it sometimes, right?
And that drive is passion. It's fire. And that's what's in the 55th gene key.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because of the let me pull up the gene key chart.
So the words for some of the I Ching that I found on Gene Keys is each of the trigrams, which is 3, have a name for them. And the thunder is realization, and the fire is passion.
And is that the 55th gene key?
Yeah, 55th. Michelle's life's work, so that might be another lens to look through, that you're realizing passion. So what does realizing passion look like for you through your life's work?
Yes, yeah. And just to mention, because the 55th gene key is connected to the 39th, and so you're going to feel that pressure. Remember we were talking about the pressure, the tension pressure of the water, and how as like a little tiny thing trying to cross that threshold, it's going to be tough sometimes. And so you have to push through it to get through that. So with the 39th gene key, we have provocation, dynamism, and liberation. And I love that one, because anger can show up there, but remember, we have to turn anger into passion. So if anger shows up here, you're getting angry because you're like, I can't get past this, and you turn that anger into that passion, and it's what liberates you into freedom. So whenever that anger activates in you, or that frustration activates in you, look at it as an opportunity to turn that into passion, or turn that into progress, and turn that into this motivation to get into freedom, because something on the other side of this is going to open something up for you, right? Whether it be victimization or freedom, we just have to go and venture into the unknown, because we can't be afraid of the darkness. We can't be afraid of what we don't know, because when you turn on the light, you're going to realize there's so much in there for you that you haven't discovered, right? And you can use your own light to illuminate stuff for yourself. Or as you're roaming around in the dark, you bump into something, you're like, oh, what's this? Okay, let me investigate this. So it's important for us to venture out into that darkness, to then unlock new realizations and illuminate new things for us. So crystals, animal totems, these are all the victim patterns. We also have, I'm going to put this on as well. These are the line numbers, and it's just like a summary of them. They go into depth in the gene keys because they have kind of different flavors as you're in a different sphere. But this is the general idea with them and the way that you can work with the victim patterns within you, because we're trying to liberate these shadows, victims, into empowered parts of ourselves. Like, we don't want to put a victim pattern in the soup of us. We want more high quality ingredients. So let's not do this. Let's put this. But you have to know how to prepare the shadow to then get that beautiful, refined, pure ingredient and stick it in your soup, right? But you got to know how to work with it. You're not going to stick the radish, like green. It doesn't taste good. I mean, I'm sure you can eat it, but the radish is what we eat. But if you don't know, like, between all the frequencies, you're like, I picked the green thing. Oh my God, that's disgusting. I don't know why I chose that, right? And then you get to the radish, you're like, ooh, this is good. Let me put some salt on it. Let me eat this. I don't know why I chose radish, but anyways. So the different line numbers. Huh?
Yeah, this has been wonderful. Ashley, can you tell us a little bit about our new teaching system that we're looking at?
Can I just say one more thing that I wanted to add to the anger and passion that I think can be important?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So Dinah's life's work is 52, and Michelle has the 25 twice in the EQ and the IQ. And a common theme, like the common theme for those two, is breath, you know, because the breath would open the constriction and the breath would open the stress. So that will open both shadow frequencies. And it's kind of another way, you know, sometimes we don't feel that, you know, pushing through, we don't feel the anger, but we do feel constricted, or we do feel in stress. And then breath is also a way that for the open emotional sometimes can be an acceptance that is easier than pushing through with anger. So just have that in mind, that breath is also a way to, you know, to unlock and to change frequency from the constriction or stress to a higher frequency, to more expansion.
For sure.
That's awesome. I got hypnotized so I can breathe deeper.
That's awesome, because a lot of the 25th gene key, and it mentions it in the 25th gene key, is I believe it's the 25th, is when we're born, right? It's I think that it's whatever we're born into, we have a different breath pattern, because if we're born into fear and we're like holding our breath, or like, I'm scared, or whatever it is, if you're not, and your life too, like, we get conditioned to breathe a certain way because it's almost like we're waiting for something to happen. We're in fear. So we have to learn how to breathe deeply into our body instead of just shallowly, right? In the purpose sphere, and I'll add another document in our unit section. In the purpose sphere, it talks about the different types, or the line numbers in association with the body. So the first line is the bones, right? The second line is posture, I believe your spinal cord fluid. The third line is all about blood. Fourth is about breath. Anyone that has 4 in their profile, so you have it in your pearl, Michelle. Yeah. So it's important for you to come into that deep breath pattern as well. So whenever you're feeling that inertia or the victim of details, there's so much to do, I don't know which one to focus on. You just got to be like, let's breathe really quick. Then the 5th line is voice. And that's about mantras, that's about kriyas, that's not about talking to yourself, because you will pick up on your own frequency and it'll like keep you down in the shadow. So if you're in the shadow and you're talking to yourself and you're like, it's like your tone is going to just do you in. So it's important to sing or whatever. And the 6th line is all about intent and cells. And I feel like Kundalini yoga and kriyas and refining that aura and working with the aura is really going to help with like what you're attracting and what you're feeling, and kind of giving you a sense to come into those cells and have like that communication with them by like going within, having mindfulness, working on your aura, just like really being intentional about going within, because especially with the 6 lines being aloof and out here, you got to get really in your body. And so you have to get personal with all the parts of your body for it to be able to be like, oh yes, okay, now it's time to manifest through this vessel. You're not going to manifest on the roof and up in La La Land. You're going to manifest in the body. So pulling that 6 line back in the body. And I feel like I opened something up for me, because in my attraction sphere, I have the 6 line in my attraction sphere like you, Michelle, and we don't even know what we want in a relationship. We're figuring it out as we go. We're like, what the is this? You know, and it's really hard. And I find myself too in like in intimate experiences where I like zoom in my head or out of my body. And I'm like, can I just experience something here? No. So that's how we're going to use the lines. And then before we go into what our program, the structure, what we're doing is, let me see if we have anything else. The lines. So we'll add a lot of the resources. Yeah. Oh, I have this. Oh yeah, this is the thing I wanted to show you guys. I have this that I'm creating.
I love it already.
Yes. That's actually in Reset and Reclaim, the program me and Johanna have. And there's a lot of Gene Key and human design in this particular PDF, so I'm going to share it with you guys just because I find it really useful in diving into the centers in human design. And sorry, I'm so out of breath because I talk really fast like Bella, but now that I'm pregnant, I have no lung space, so I'm like, I can't talk as fast as I normally do because I get out of breath. So let me breathe. So knowing your line number and your gene key, writing that down, and then I have for each of the spheres what each of the lines mean. And I got it from Richard Rudd's different books, but I've summarized it in my own words because I don't want to get in trouble by Richard Rudd. So what the strategy is for each of these lines through each of the evolution, life's work, all that. And then moving into human design, we have the head center. What is it like when it's defined and undefined? And particularly these not self states are important. And we're able to use the wisdom in the undefined and know when we're not acting like ourselves. So these are really great things to be mindful of when you are looking at your design and your gene keys and kind of seeing what shows up, especially for the 55 and having an open emotional center. It's important to know like what that not self state is and how you can liberate yourself into that freedom. And it's almost that freedom from the drama, freedom from having to avoid anything. It's like you're just heart wide open to life and your perspective is totally neutral. So I have that, and I'll add that into.
And also with the open centers, for both of you, you have the head and the ego and the emotional open. So kind of maybe writing down the not self themes for these three for the open centers, and actually see how actually intertwined they are in your life. So when you are in the not self, in the ego, for example, trying to prove yourself because you want to be good enough, then you know that your mind is there too, kind of telling you, this must be the way. And then, we're walking at eggshells at the same time, we're over promising. So you can see, like, if you take that document and just write down for your open centers, and Dan has the throat as well, you can see how they really just tuck into each other, and it makes kind of this chewing gum that you're stuck there. And that's what Ra used to say, the founder of human design. 90% of people live their whole life in the shadow frequency, or actually he was saying the not self, because that's the human design way of saying it. And it's true. I recognize myself so much in that, but at the same time, when I know it, then there is a choice for us to our frequency. And with all the different tools today, it's not impossible. We don't have to be stuck forever. Nothing is forever,
Exactly. Yeah, so if you're going to unlock and liberate your superhero within you, you got to know what your gifts are. You got to know what your shadows are so that you know how to transform them into your gifts. You have to be mindful of the victim, not so that you can fixate on them or even spend a lot of time. It's just you're not going to go diving deep into the shadows. You're just going to know how to handle your enemies, your arch nemesis, as those battles come to you. And eventually you're going to be able to neutralize yourself to when you look at your shadows, you aren't judging them and they just are. And then they don't have as much of a hold on you and you're able to shift frequencies pretty easily because it's just about what you want to experience. And it's not about battles or fighting or winners and losers. It's just, you're almost liberating yourself out of the superhero type archetype and you're just like being, right? There's no one to save, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do, you get to just be. But you have to go through this journey of uncovering and liberating yourself out of victim into that superhero. What makes you a superhero? What are the superpowers that you share with the world, and what can support you and kind of fostering these things, because you want to be able to have that mentor like we saw on the hero's journey. You want to figure out what's going to help liberate you, what's going to come with you on this journey. Come with me on the journey, I want to learn, right? And this journey is into yourself, right? So you're going to have trials and failures. You're going to get your new skills too, because you're going to have growth. You're going to be places you've never been before, inward and outward. And then you're going to go through this sort of like death and rebirth. And when you introduce yourself to people a year from now, you're going to be like, I know that you knew me like for my whole life, but I'm a different me now. So let me tell you who this new me is about, because I'm completely different. So just knowing that you're supported is going to empower you into that freedom so that you're not feeling like a victim, and that you know that there's no white horse or Prince Charming or anyone coming to save you. It's just you. And so it's about liberating yourself into that role that you're playing for yourself. So we'll give all of that information will be on, hold on. All that information will be in the group in the unit section, and we'll put all the different supplemental materials too. But as we're moving forward, we're going to continue to do master classes like this on different topics, on different gene keys, gates, whatnot. And we're always going to have like the appetizer, right? Because this is kind of in the format of the dinner party, and this is a game. This is fun. We're not supposed to take life seriously, so we want to make it lighthearted. So obviously the appetizers get you into understanding what we're bringing to the table, and then there may or may not be a first course where it's like a shorter class and more interactive too. And then we have obviously the main course and the experience. What we are transitioning into doing is putting this into a subscription group called Unlock Your Design, which I had all last year, and I ended up pausing it for a little bit. And so now what we're doing is we're incorporating all these master classes and experiences within that group. So it's kind of like a bonus and an add-on. People are still able to sign up for just the master class if they don't want to commit to like the group. But the group is what's going to help you go on this journey and have support as you're going, so that you feel empowered and that you have the tools, and that we're continuing to bring you stuff that makes you feel empowered and going deeper into you. So we're putting this into the group, and for the first month that it's open, since you and Dana we're the first people to like jump on this, we're gonna get you into the group for free or $1, whatever I need to do to get you into the group, and you'll have access to the group for a month. And then if you want to continue, you can either stop the subscription or continue. It's going to be $33 a month, and you'll get the masterclass, which this one was $55, right? So for the public, it's $55, but for anybody in the group, it's $33, and you have the masterclass plus everything we do in the group. So it's all the like the weekly calls, the support calls, the Gene Key calls that we can have, and then whatever materials we want to go live on or talk about. So it's really a support to empower you into freedom and into your superhero. So we'll be able to gift that month experience for you so that you can kind of get into those waters. Ooh.
And we'll dive deeper into the transits, and we'll have the sacred self-care support deeper. I'm excited because I love to just like research and educate and just throw information out. And it'll be all organized. It's going to be lovely.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention something as well, because the dinner party, like we have, what we have spoken about before, is kind of we're around the table, and it's we want it to be interactive. So before, I would ask you also, Michelle, before we finish, and it's recorded, but if you have any questions or if there's anything you want to share, now we're here for you, and maybe we speak fast, we say a lot. Is there anything that we could a last thing that we could clarify for you, or something personal, that you feel comfortable to share? We would love to hear your voice as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just thought that was really cool. I mean, I feel like I get a lot more of all of this now just from talking or listening to you guys. And I definitely feel that more like avoiding drama and emotion and being aloof and like wanting to study all this stuff, but not really knowing if I'm getting it in my body. So I guess, yeah, just more ways of knowing. Like, I feel like I could even convince myself mentally that I'm feeling something in my body, So I'm still all up here, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful because all that is in your blueprint,
Yeah.
and then we can stop feeling guilty about it. It's all
Right.
there. Your genes are like shining that at us. We don't know you, or I don't know you. And that's, that's just what pops out of me from the chart. And then it's like, we are choiceless in a way, but we can walk with this blueprint in the best way possible. And it's like, for me to hear you say that, it's just like showing all of us that it's there. We can buy this blueprint, walking it. We are already in the spiral up,
Right. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you were to look at nature too, and nature thrives, right? And it's not if we can learn from nature and learn anything from nature, as long as we align ourselves with our inner nature, we're always on the creative spiral upwards, right? Until it's time to move into the next journey, which we're not dying, we're just moving on to the next experience, the next journey. But it's almost like our mind gets in the way and creates that destructive force for ourselves so that we experience the spiral of destruction, right? And so we have to continue to remind ourselves what it's like to be in our body and relate it to like the tree or the whatever's flourishing and thriving we need to be like. So
I totally agree, Ashley, about the nature thing, because it leads to what I was going to say about the biofeedback loop in the second line. You can start working with that energy and feeling into it. And not only that, but you've got the dragon, the 59, right? And that's sometimes, this is how my visual is like, here's your dragon talon. Okay, you reach out into other people and you pull them. It's like butter. Oh, sliced right through they don't even know they're wide open. They don't even, yeah. No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You bring them into your aura, and then the 2 takes over. It's a biofeedback loop, and you can play with this energy. And what happens when you start to feel that, your brain will click, the teacher will click on, you'll feel that shift, like, whoa, where did all that information come from? And then if you don't, if you're not ready to work with the people, perhaps nature, that works with nature as well. So include that in your sacred practice and just watch those energy fields and feel it in your body. Do legs up the wall, yoga position while you're listening to your chimes, and you've got your botanicals and you got your crystals all over your body, you know, whatever your practice is.
Right.
Yeah. The question you should continue to ask yourself is, how much more deeply can I let life in, right? Because I think that with having that intimacy, you're wanting to continue to open up, because it's almost when you have that constriction and you have that victim, it's almost like this wall that
Right.
I don't want to let anyone in.
It is. And what I found when my heart opened up, okay, so your intentional breathing would absolutely be a practice for you. We see that, okay? So what will happen with the breathing, the heart will then have, you'll line up your body, you'll have more room. That heart will open. It won't be constricted anymore because of your lungs. You'll be able to, and it feels a little like tender sometimes, that expansion, and but the breathing is gonna, the allowing, and just even we're hunched over when we're on our computers, right? Just really practice moving your shoulders back and opening that space, and just like, I don't know, think you have dragon wings or something. Play with it.
Cool.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, so definitely reevaluate your self-care routine and allow that to support you in the journey that you're making for yourself and into yourself. Because I feel like there's a lot of nuggets in here that you can take and then implement, so that you can create a daily practice that's going to support you, so that you feel empowered. Because when you're in that empowered state, you can face any challenges that come to you, and you don't feel like you're a victim, because you kind of know your way out of it. But you have to get wise about what are these, what kind of themes do I attract, because they're just coming to you for you to master them. Because your quality of consciousness, your purpose sphere, is mastery. But if you're indifferent about what's coming to you, and you're like, no, whatever, I'm not gonna, you're not wanting to dive into it. Indifference is like the worst feeling in the world, because it's worse than it's worse than anything, because there's nothing happening in you. It's like, I could be here, or I don't care. It's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
You have to start creating that passion and fire within you to liberate you into that freedom. And that's why it's important to get into communion with that 39, to kind of light that fire for you, to give you that pressure. And you have a defined pressure center. So what kind of pressure can you start generating to then ignite that? And life is going to ignite the 55 for you too, because you're going to plug into life. So the more deeply you connect into life, it's going to start igniting your emotional center, and you're going to start interacting with the 55, right? And you're going to get more opportunities to feel freedom instead of victim.
Yay.
Yes. So do you have any other questions for us?
I don't think so.
I know that you're probably going to need to conceptualize it and put it into your own words, because we're using all of our language, and I know you have a defined anja, so you're like, let me write this down and then understand. You got to understand it for yourself.
Yeah.
Have a week, you can ask us for any clarity. Go ahead and put that in the group, absolutely. This is layers. And often when you get information like this, for me, it isn't until it sinks in a couple days later, like you get the aha.
Yeah.
It's working though. It's in there.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Well, we'll post the replay in the group, and we'll also give you the different PDFs and whatever we want to pull up and stick it in the unit section. So there's a lot of information in the group already, but to organize this stuff that we're talking about here, it'll go in the unit section. So you can just click on that tab, and it'll have everything, all the materials that we talked about here, the PDFs and all that stuff in there. And then I think we'll open up Unlock Your Design for March, and we'll get you in there, and then you can decide if at the end of the month if you want to continue or or whatnot, but that's kind of your
Okay.
little like reward for thanks for
Yay.
for trying this out with us and
Yeah.
being one of the first. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too. Thank you.